It does. It's one, as you said, it's team friendly. You got a guy who is going into the last year of his original deal. So remember, I mean, you can make an argument that Malcolm Jenkins, probably everybody would point to Fletcher Cox as the best player on this team. But if you're talking MVP, it would be tough to go away from Malcolm Jenkins and what he did for that team. He played at a high level. A lot of people thought he was one of the 2 or 3 best safeties in all of football. And the fact that he had a cap number that was a little bit over $7 million coming in next season, you know they want to extend him anyway, so you get it done early, and you save a little bit of money. So that's been Howie's MO, and it worked again today.
You know, he was Pro Football Focus second best safety in football. I don't think, you know, I don't think anybody questions Jenkins as a player and as a man and as a leader. But 28 years old for 5 years, kind of read the tea leaves on that deal where, you know, a lot of people say, well, they don't ever get all of that money. This seems like a lot of money for a guy who's getting a little bit older, but would you describe this as a win?
Yeah, I mean, from the team standpoint, yeah, I think it is. It's that definition. It's a team-friendly deal, and you're probably right. In all realistic, he's probably not going to see the end of that deal. And if he does, he's going to have to renegotiate before the end of it. But that's the way the NFL does business now. So it's about money up front. It's about guaranteed money. And in his mind, he got $16 million fully guaranteed when he signed today, $21 million guaranteed overall. So when you look at it from his standpoint, he was just guaranteed, as I said, a little bit. His cap number was a little bit over $7 million, but his base salary this year was, I think, $5.5 million. So that was all that was left. So from his standpoint, he goes from $5.5 million to $21 million guaranteed. So he's excited, he's thrilled, and the Eagles got a very good player for under market value. So it works for both sides.
John, give me kind of handicap the other safety spot at this point. I mean, Thurman is in the mix, I would guess, not signed yet, but I mean, I'm assuming that they would probably like to bring him back. That's going to be interesting to see if they can. Rowe played safety in college, but, you know, they might like him at the cornerback position. I don't know what the free agent market looks like here, but handicap who his partner will be.
Well, I think they would love to get Walter Thurman back, but that's going to be a situation where I don't know if it's possible because I think he's going to outplay. I think he did outplay what the Eagles would want to pay him, and I think he'll get a big payday elsewhere. So if he comes in-house, do you have anybody ready? We haven't seen what Jim Schwartz's mentality is because you bring up Eric Rowe. He played 3 years at safety in college before moving to cornerbacks, and he certainly has the frame to play that position. So he could say, look, this guy looks more like a safety to me, and we can move him back and have a very young player and a good core group there for years. Or he may turn around and say, no, I like his length. I like his athletic ability to stick him on the outside. I will say, if they don't sign Thurman and they don't move Rowe, I don't think there is an in-house candidate on this team right now that could start at safety, and that leads you to the draft or free agency. And I don't think this team's going to be very, very active in free agency. This is the fifth high-dollar signing. It's clearly their mentality is to build from within and reward the players they have. I don't think they're going to be making splashes on the free agent market, so it looks more like the draft in that estimation.
Give me your opinion, John, of Nolan Carroll and the possibility of bringing him back, and, you know, that could change things for Eric Rowe as well. But is Nolan Carroll a guy that you would target if you're Howie Roseman?
Well, that's interesting also because the mentality under the old regime is he wasn't going to be back, and I think that was correct. I think if Chip Kelly was still here, they had the mentality that they were going to move forward with Eric Rose starting corner, and Nolan Carroll was going to have to move on and find another place to play. Now that you have a completely new thought process in there, you have to enter it in the equation that Nolan Carroll played really, really well last season before he got hurt on Thanksgiving. And he's not a guy who's going to break the bank on the open market, so you can bring him back for a decent contract price. And if your mentality is you want to move Eric Rowe back, it makes a lot of sense because he proved he can hold up at the corner position. It just all remains to be seen. We have to really, really look at what Jim Schwartz does when we finally get into the first OTA and things like that, and see where his mindset's going. Because this is completely different. We're going from 3-4 to 4-3. We're going from a two-gap defense to an aggressive defense. And there's going to be some significant change in some of the skill set. I always say we always talked about the square pegs and the round holes as they related to Chip Kelly and Bill Davis, namely guys like Vinnie Curry and Michael Kendricks. Well, it's going to go the opposite way now. There are going to be certain players, Connor Barwin most notably, perhaps Walter Thurman, that aren't a fit for a 4-3, but fit for what Bill Davis was doing.
John, a couple stories. Doug Peterson said, I thought his quote was kind of interesting. Said, basically, it's best for a rookie quarterback to grow in the system a season playing. It almost sounds like Peterson is endorsing a franchise tag for Sam Bradford. Like, yeah, we'd like to have a quarterback for a year, draft a guy, let him sit. I don't know that will happen, but did you read between the lines and feel the same way?
Well, I think his thought process there is the bridge, but your bridge quarterback isn't going to be a $20 million guy. That's not a bridge. That's a guy you move and is going to be the starter for years. A bridge quarterback would be a Chase Daniel, a Nick Foles, somebody who's going to bought in at a lesser price tag that you don't mind playing for a year while you get the young quarterback ready. So I think that's been his thought process from the beginning. Mm-hmm. The only question is, do you like one of those three quarterbacks? And if you like one of them, is that the one that's going to be there at number 13? So all of that enters in the equation. But one thing, I talked to a couple different people over the weekend. I'm getting more and more of a thought that Sam Bradford's not getting $20 million. So if
you mean from anybody?
Yeah, from anybody. So if they can get him at $15, $16 million, I think it changes the game.
There's no doubt about it. If they can get him do you think if they could get him at that 15, 16 million, they would like to go more than a year? But with Bradford, I don't know if Bradford, does he want to take a 3-year deal? Does he get a 5-year deal someplace else? Maybe he doesn't get the $20 million, but does he get more years?
Well, I'd love it. That's the first thing. You want 5 years, 25. You shoot for the sky, and then you want 5 years, 20, and then you want 3 years, 20, and then you want 3 years, 15. It's a matter of where it ends up. The more people I talk to, the more feeling I get that Kirk Cousins is far more highly regarded around this league. He'll set the stage. He'll set the scale. I don't think he's going to reach $20 million either. I think the Redskins are going to get something done before they have to put the franchise tag on. And then all the other stuff comes into it. I think the Eagles would not be willing to go 5 years. Would some other team be willing to give those 2 extra years? Possibly, because we just talked about it with Malcolm Jenkins. If you do these contracts right, and most of these GMs in this league are smart enough to do it, that 4th and 5th year, you're almost assumed you're not getting to that anyway without renegotiating. So it's definitely a possibility.
Malcolm Jenkins signs today. He gets a 5-year extension, which I guess will help the cap as well for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a guy who's played a lot of snaps, but he's been a very good leader. And I think the next story will be who will be his running mate at that position. What will the Eagles do at quarterback? We still have our eye on that. Let me ask you, John, how about Mark Sanchez? He back here?
I don't think so. I've gotten a feeling since pretty early that the new group is not as fond as him, and Chip Kelly was always a big supporter of Mark Sanchez, because when you hear about the potential bridge quarterback scenario, the one name you never hear about is Mark Sanchez, and he's the guy they have under contract. So if you want a bridge quarterback and you like Mark Sanchez, you would just keep him and use him and draft a young guy. But that's not sort of the rumblings you hear coming out of South Philadelphia, and I think that tells you a lot. I don't think he's all that well liked by Doug Peterson and the new group.
All right, John's got more on the Malcolm Jenkins story. Check it out at 97.3 ESPN.com as the Eagles' offseason continues to stay busy. Thanks, John.
Hey, thank you, Mike.